Hello everybody and welcome to another video. If you've seen the title for this video in the thumbnail, you'll know that we're going over some Helldivers 2 cut concepts. Now this video wouldn't have been done without my friend suggesting it to me. I was just chilling, get a DM, hey, you know a video I haven't seen on Helldivers? Cut content. I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I've never seen that either, actually. So we did the research. We went over the research. He helped me a lot with the Super Earth section of this video. And this video just wouldn't have been done without him. So huge thank you to him. And without a further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the automatons. The automatons originally had two completely different looks to them. The first of these looks were a more like clunky green version. This version of them were also given a scrappier look. They were more rustic. These green automatons also had much different versions of their vehicles. Instead of having tanks with wheels, the tanks had legs instead of wheels and were much bigger than the tanks we have now. The transport walker is much shorter than the tank and the strider and would transport troops like the factory strider. Except this one would because of the lack of the word factory. Probably wasn't always pumping out like Devastators or whatever. The second version of the automatons looked much less scrappy. However, they looked much less advanced as well, even using World War I/World War II style weaponry instead of the more sci-fi weapons they have now. Their tanks also have a more World War I style to them. They're a little more boxy than the ones currently. Another thing to note here is that they have a different logo to the cyborgs and automatons we have now. A theory me and my friend had was that the automatons were originally supposed to be made by rebels and not the cyborgs. And I'm kind of glad they didn't go with that decision because it's nice to have ties to the cyborgs from the first game. Wouldn't really make sense to make rebels, make the robots, even though there's a perfect chance for the cyborgs to make the robots, right? Next is the Terminids. There is basically nothing on the Terminids. All we really have are these two pictures. One depicts an early concept of a much taller stalker, kind of looks like the shadow from the first game. And the other picture depicts the more crustaceous look of the original bugs from the first game. It's possible that they would have gone with the more crustaceous look in Helldivers 2, which I still think would be interesting to see. However, I don't think it would make much sense to implement. Now, the reason they probably didn't add crustaceans is probably because they didn't want the style to be too close to the first game, make it feel different. Super Earth. There's a lot to talk about in this section, and I couldn't have found it all without my friend Null. The first thing I would like to touch on is the UI. A lot changed here. The original map UI had much smaller markers. The Terminid nest, for example, very hard to see, so you can barely tell it's there. The compass letters are also much harder to see. Luckily, the new map has a much bigger indicator, so it's not as hard to tell where something is or what it is. The map also has a blue glow to the edges of it, compared to the newer one, which just has a gray outline. Kind of disappointing. I kind of liked the blue glow. Gray feels a bit boring. This map also could have been connected to helmet passives, and we'll talk about that later. This is a small one, but if you look closely, it looks like instead of identifying you by your first initial and then a number, it was your first two initials of your username. They most likely changed this because someone might have the same first two initials and they don't want people to get confused. There are some locations that have concepts and models. For example, the Stroman news broadcast station. This location could have been linked to the leaked camera stratagem. It's possible we would use the camera, then bring it back to the broadcast station as a side objective, and the video would play on the ship when you get back. But it looks like this building was replaced by the more common outpost we see around the map. A location we have concepts for that can still very likely make it into the game could be colonies. It looks like the current defense missions might be based off of colony missions that we would have gotten originally. These colonies also could have just spawned on the map as a place to take a break and get ammo. I think if they do add these colonies to the game, it would be nice if they spawned more frequently the closer the planet was to Super Earth. If you notice this armor, the logo is different to the one we have currently. It has the yellow background and a black skull instead of the traditional white skull we see in the first game and now the second. Noel also pointed out it would make sense for a section of the military to change their logo, just because it's too iconic and might confuse people. Super Destroyers were quite a bit different, the interior especially. The outside had a more Helldivers 1 look to it, being a bit bulky yet more compact, if that makes sense. The interior was much bigger and more spacious. I would have liked to have an area like this, because having places to roam around is awesome. There also likely would have been a firing range. This unfortunately didn't happen due to development time, as stated by Pilotstead. Hopefully one day we'll be able to walk on more areas of our ship, like the hangar for example. Let's talk about the galactic map. As you can see, there's a path leading to the galactic map, which seems to have a galaxy on a 3D plane, kind of like how we see a planet now. Next to this path are stairs that look like they lead to main Helldivers Bridge, where you could get into the Hellpods and look out the window. Super Earth cargo ships. I think the original idea behind this was that you would defend these ships before they take off. I still believe this mission could happen, especially with the recent additions of facilities on the map that hold valuable components that are vital to the DSS. Another possibility is that you would defend these ships in space. This is unlikely because, as stated by Johan Pilestead, space battles would be like developing a whole new game. While I was browsing through the Discord messages, Johan Pilestead did actually mention that there was originally a backpack stratagem that would have a robot arm and would stim nearby players. We don't know how far this arm would have extended, but it's likely not very far. Johan Pilestead also mentioned a mech eject system that would eject you and make the mech blow up like a hell bomb. I still think this would be cool, however, I think there should be an option between ejecting and blowing up or just ejecting. Let's talk about the old booster system. The old booster system was very strange, and thankfully isn't the one we have now. The system would make you use your samples in order to get extra ammo, stims, grenades, of course at the cost of your samples. Thankfully this booster system wasn't implemented because I think everyone prefers the one-time metal payment and also having shared boosters across everyone. One of the things I'm most disappointed isn't in-game is the helmet passives. There's a chance that the minimap I showed you guys earlier could have been connected to helmet passives. Also, a lot of the helmets in-game look like they should have helmet passives. Like the Groundbreaker, for example, should have gas resistance, in my opinion. Johan Pilestead did mention that these were cut because of what this tweet says here. And another thing to look at are these old armor concepts. These look really cool. There was originally an idea where you're able to have an armor set and you pick whether it's light, medium, or heavy, and depending on what you pick actually changes the look of the armor. I think this would have been a really cool system. Kinda mad it's gone, kinda glad it's gone because we have more customization options. I do really like the look of these old armor concepts because they look sort of like gladiator armor, and I just think it would have been cool. Here's a chicken. There was a chicken concept art. This section has some less important stuff. For instance, if you look in this image, you can see an impaling plant. That would be very infuriating to mess with. I still think it would have been cool. It would have been another thing to dodge, look out for. And tree sap. I do think this might come into the game when more forest maps come out. It would slow you down and it might bring a cool look to the environment. At one point there was a battle pass system planned that would give you armors of different rarities. There was also a system for buying bundles. For instance, Chemical Agents War Bond was originally the Death Troopers bundle. We know this due to some data mining and leaking voice packs. These seem like they were going to come from War Bonds. There's a Viper Commandos one and a Cowboy one. Hopefully they add these in the future. These current voice actors are getting a little stale. This was also found out via data mining and leak. Thank you all for watching. Like I said, this video couldn't have been done without my friend Noel for the help bringing me the idea and helping me research. Another thanks I'd like to give is to Iron Sights, who told me about the Cowboy voice actor and the Viper Commandos voice acting, and the Battle Pass system and bundle system. That's all the cut content and concepts I could find. There will likely be more cut content in the future, And when all that comes out, I will be covering it in a part 2. So if you'd like to see that, make sure to subscribe. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. Up to you. But have a great rest of your day. See ya.
Eyes that go bright, move so slow you're fast. You can't catch the sight, mystery that will last. Oh, the schmoo.